I coordinate a girls group in Courtenay on Vancouver Island in BC, and I've been doing it for 15 years.
I'm from the city of Toronto, and I work with Community Action Resource Centre, which is a non-profit.
I'm here, I'm wearing two hats. I am the director of a hip-hop literacy program called Word. I also work at a youth employment center with youth between the ages of 18 and 24.
I'm from Yellowknife. I work for the YWCA there for a program called Girls Space. So it's essentially a leadership and empowerment program for girls age 8 through 13.
Je travaille à Les Essentiels, c'est le groupe de femmes francophones à Whitehorse au Yukon.
I'm from St. John's, and I work with the Newfoundland and Labrador Sexual Assault Crisis and Prevention Center.
And I am currently the director of a new collective in Montreal called Life After Life, and it is a collective that is led by formerly and currently incarcerated girls, women, queer, trans youth, and a lot of us have our hands in a lot of different activist spaces in the Montreal area.
I remember this girl from Dawson City, and we're doing like an icebreaker, saying like, "What are you good at?" And she said, "I'm good at hockey." And the boy beside her said, "I'm good at baking." And then we're just like, we didn't even start the workshop yet, and they were already like just breaking the boxes of the gender boxes of like, yes. So that was the defining moment.
My first year doing my programming, I made a very strong agenda for the night, and I did a lot of talking, and 2 years later I talk very little, and the idea to just go with it is ringing much more true, right? So a small amount of information and let them run with it and make sure they stay on topic and such and so forth, but they're the experts, right?
You know, often they come in with things that have happened, you know, a suicide in the community, a car crash that's taken the lives of 4 kids or whatever, and they need to talk about it, and so we're lucky that we have facilitators, and we have peer facilitators as well, older girls who are able to are very good at responding, like in the moment or in the situation.
They're made aware that I'm respectful of what they have to say, like really, and I allow them to see how much what they say can change anywhere and also change them. I think it's really about making them feel good too and powerful, especially for young girls.
I just have a code, and it's just very simple. It's only 3 rules, which is starting off with respecting yourself, which means to have the capacity to believe that you can contribute, respect others, obviously, and then respect this environment.
Offer a space that, you know, is non-judgmental, that they're going to feel, you know, that they can use their voice in that space, and, you know, the program will just evolve from that.
I don't really believe that there's ever such thing as a safe space, but we can try to create a safer space. So we're driving towards a better society. We're trying to model that society within our group, but there are going to be mistakes, and we got to be able not to be like, oh, stop, this is not safe. Because this is the only space that they may even be able to articulate these things. We have to be able to challenge it together.
You're not aware of how much you instill or what you say can really encourage people. There's this young girl that I know, and I don't think you realize how much impact you have on people until something like this happens. And she was on the radio talking about how inspirational and how motivating and how I made her feel so much of, you know, who she was. But she was so moved. She went on the radio and she was talking about me. She never said it to my face. For me, it was almost heartbreaking, because I never really thought that I was being that much of a force in her life.
What doesn't work is condescending tones, because youth are very familiar with that tone. It's a stigma that they might affiliate with adults-youth relationships, so it's very important to like not mimic that or recreate that.
What doesn't work is unsolicited advice, either from the adult facilitators or from the older girls, who often come in really wanting to help these younger girls. So advice giving does not work at all.
Making assumptions about a girl's experience or you know what she's been through, just because someone else has had a similar experience doesn't mean that girl or woman is going to feel the same way. I think part of that is, not judging and being open to what it is the girl needs.
Privilege comes from a lot of different spaces, whether we're talking about race or sexuality, class, etc. But we have to be real about that, because young people will see that. Young people will figure it out. So what doesn't work is shying away from conflict, not understanding your own position of power and privilege, and always being outcome instead of process oriented.
We had one girl who had some pretty significant mental health concerns. She identified that she had a lot of anxiety, and she came to group and she sat on the outside of the circle. The second group came along, she arrived, and again she sat on the outside of the circle. We went through our group, the girls were starting to feel a little bit more connected, and I could see her kind of smiling every now and then, but again she was on the outside, didn't participate. So the third group came, and then about halfway through the group, she just very, very slowly brought her chair into the circle. So after 2 groups, the rest of these girls were they were so welcoming to this girl, and there was no judgment about her sitting on the outside. There was no like, oh, she's weird, there's something wrong with her. My hunch is that she was forced often, pushed into those kind of situations. And in this situation, she was allowed her time and space to be able to come into the group. And I just remember thinking, that's what it's about.
Every year, a new group of young people come through in which they're paid, they learn skills, they're able to advocate for themselves and their community. Once they graduate the program in a year, they're the ones that are going to be the peer mentors after. So the next year, they're the ones that are going to train the new generation.
But sustainability is also the people who are empowered and who take ownership over this project. The idea is that we start things and let them grow.
It becomes viral. And
Yeah.
in a weird way, it becomes a movement. Mm-hmm. You're actually, instead of just building a service, that's like a one-off service, you're building a movement of people that are activists, fierce activists. They could write a budget, they could maybe debate, they can lobby, they could do a media press conference. You send them out in the world, oh my Lord, things are gonna change.
Key message I give the girls in Girls Space all the time is you have a voice, use it. And a parent called me one day and told me that her daughter had disclosed that she had been sexually abused when the girl was 5 years old, and she was older now. And when the mother asked the daughter why she had never told her all this time that this had happened to her, she said, I didn't realize I had a voice. So that really made me realize I have a great capacity to make a difference in these young girls' lives. Has to go up against walls all the time with preconceived notions about whatever it is they're trying to tackle, whether girls should have a voice or girls should be this way,
I chose the word accepting because I feel in order to lead, you have to accept a person for who they are.
I'm doing this because I love myself, I love women, because I want people to love each other, I want people to respect each other.
You have to start with listening, and you have to start with being prepared to hear things that are not always easy to hear. Being challenged by girls because of something that you've done that they don't like.
Breaking barriers, breaking stereotypes, breaking generalizations, just trying to get out of those boxes.
You have to be a risk taker to do this work. You have to be able to sometimes say, you know what, I am going to let this control issue, I'm just going to have to let this go and see where it leads and see where people take it. And sometimes where it's going may be a pretty scary place.
So I would say all these words that we've come up with today, courage, listening, accepting, those are all qualities of a good leader, and that's what I expect in a leader.